Hey everyone, welcome to another Open Cluster Management Community Meetings. Today we're going to present a new repo called the multi-cloud integration or proposal for a new repo. It deals with importing managed cluster into Argo CDs. So we get that integration with OCM and Argo CD. But while we wait for the presenter, um, Josh to arrive, I think Bernie wants to talk about how we can make OCM install easier via a new operator. Gurney, if you want to take it away, please.
Yeah, sure. Sorry this wasn't on the agenda, folks. I just had a quick side conversation that I had, of course, on the hike with one of my buddies who works on the IBM Sandbox team. Quick brief on IBM Sandbox. IBM Sandbox, Cloud Pak Sandbox, is not the team that came and presented. It's a different team named slightly differently that does slightly different things. But all they do is set up OpenShift environments, often rocks, and then deploy some set of applications, some set of Cloud Paks, and other configuration to that cluster or clusters, and then basically recreate a small version of a customer deployment, proof of concept, and then eventually if the customer decides to sign the deal, they'll actually roll it out to the customer and help them make that exist. I had said, hey, he was talking about having to maintain a bunch of Terraform scripts to create these environments, and it takes 3 hours, and they have to do it manually every time. And I'm like, well, sounds like a great opportunity for a multi-cluster management tool. And then I gestured at the open source project. And they took a look, and their big concern was, holy cow, this looks like a lot of upfront knowledge that I need to know to be able to lay down and interact with this tool. And then he kind of gave up part of the way through the install process and said, this is taking too long, I need to do something else. Which is definitely not what I want to hear from a personal friend. And I know last week I talked about, maybe we put together an operator of operators and put that on the operator hub, similar to how we've done ACM and now MCE. To which Joe rightfully replied, we kind of want to get out of the business of bundling a bunch of things in one operator. So we already have CM init that does a lot of the work for us, so we can always buff that up and just make that kind of our way to deploy things and have the open source project slowly but surely contribute to that, which is a really good option. But in the operator-centric world that some people, especially OpenShift folks, exist in, and IBM and a couple other OpenShift consumers, it might be good to have an alternative option that is operator-based. One thought I had in the area kind of last night, past couple days, was as we move towards these different pillars and these different pieces of functionality in the open source domain, if we can have these as separate operators, and then recently I've been exploring bundling and building catalogs for a single operator, we could potentially have separate single operators that can be installed and even laid down into Operator Hub, from which you could apply one subscription that was actually 4 subscriptions that just lays down all the subcomponents of OCM, piece by piece, subscribed from the open source, maybe even on community operators, that lets you do an OCM IO install from Operator Hub as well. Now, this would, of course, be alongside everything that we've had in the past, because folks really like not having to have Operator Hub sometimes for the install, and the operator lifecycle everything. So this is just an idea to throw out there. I can follow up in a thread and we can talk about what folks think. But this might be a good way to reconcile the concept of, we don't want to bundle a bunch of stuff in one very large operator, but I've at least talked to 2 people now that have said, I tried your open source project and gave up because it was taking too long to install, and they're used to clicking a box on Operator Hub and clicking install and then having it magically appear. So if we could give them a way to click 2 or 3 boxes and click install and have it magically appear, that might be a really great compromise. That's it for me, though, unless anyone has any comments or questions.
Yujang, do you have any comments on that? Because we do have the cluster manager operator and the clusterlet operator on the operator hub already, but from a user perspective, to join the cluster, I guess it's not that straightforward as well. So, but even if we create this new operator that Bernie suggests, I don't think that process will be simplified as well. So What do you think, Eugene?
Um, what operator we are going to provide? I'm not sure I fully understand.
The big one on this was he was looking at kind of the application bits that were starting to move open source and the GRC bits that were starting to move open source, because we have cluster manager and then the clusterlet, and he can do that handshake, but he was also putting down some of the policy and other bits and exploring those. And I don't think those have operators that you can kind of toss into the operator hub in a nice clean format and click install as well. And I know that would probably get them over the bump of I'm going to start using this. So that was just more of an idea.
Is that something like you want to install the add-on like an operators using operator hub? Like you have a policy operator and you have an application operator. You
Yeah,
could
probably on the
install
hub
that.
side. Yeah.
I think that's something not sure Jinling is here, but he also discussed with me about this. Like we didn't have a mechanism that you can really install half-side things, and then that trigger the add-on to be installed on the agent.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure we will go to the operator side part. I mean, whether we will go to the operator approach or um, maybe there will be other approach, like someone might use Helm chart to
Hmm.
install that,
Yeah.
or we really want maybe we want to invent a new thing like using the cluster EDM to install this. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's something we can consider that. I mean, this is really impact the user experience and
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
The
yeah.
biggest thought I had was just as we add more to what is in OCMIO and as we expand and that gets more mature, the easier that the user can install all of that functionality and then toggle some things off that they don't necessarily want really lowers the barrier to entry for if I send people to it. I've had a couple of friends that I've sent to it that I've said, holy cow, there's a lot of doc here. Whereas a lot of other projects is like one or two steps, which if we can get there, it'd be incredible.
Yep, I agree. Let's put that on the agenda so we can discuss it further. Um, Really excited to have Josh join to present us the main topic today, which is the onboarding of the multi-cloud integration that deals with the GitHubs integration Argo with OCM. I know a few folks in the community are interested in that. Josh, without further delay, please take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
All right. Let's see if I can get the sharing working. We will start here. So I opened up a an enhancement in the community to bring what we're called, for now at least, it's called the GitOps cluster operator. And so what this is currently Argo CD is big in the GitOps space. We have the application subscription that's in the OCM community, but we wanted to build a tighter integration with that Argo community. And since or OCM is in the business of cluster management and import, it made sense that you should be able to take clusters that OCM is aware about and make those available to Argo. And we'll talk a little bit also about some of the integrations we've done besides just making the clusters available. So the proposal I have is we have a a couple of the developers on the ACM product had worked on. We have a controller and a CRD called GitOps Cluster that allows you to create a resource and leverage the placement rule that you find in OCM as a targeting mechanism for import. And so what do I mean by that is you create a resource, a CR, that represents the Argo, and that's the GitOps cluster resource. And using placement, you target manage clusters in OCM, and anything that matches that placement rule then automatically gets imported into that specific Argo. So if you have more than one Argo running on a hub, for example, you'll be able to create multiple instances of the GitOps resource, one for each of those Argo instances, and based on their placement, import the managed clusters. And so as a real world use case, for example, you could have 3 Argos installed on the hub, one for configuration that all clusters that you join to OCM are imported from, and then 2, one for say development and one for production. And so a placement rule for production that chooses everything with a label, say usage production, and one for development or UAT or test that has a label with the same kind of usage. And so you've got 3 Argos, one getting all imported clusters, and then 2 that get one that's just production, and one that gets just development. So there's a number of different ways to spin this and to use it, and it's a nice clean integration that didn't actually require any changes to Argo CD proper itself. And so our plan is to donate, or we'd like to, assuming we can get approval, donate this to the OCM space. And so that'll bring this new CRD and the CR that goes with it, a controller as well that acts on that CRD and does the actual work of taking a managed cluster, matching the CR and placement together when we find that cluster, importing it into the specific Argo CDs. So that's what we have on the truck today. Where this goes even a step further is that I contributed back to Argo's application set project. So this is in their community in the Argo labs. Application sets actually support something called the custom decision tree we added. So I'm in application sets as part of the Argo lab projects. This cluster decision resource was created specifically to support the OCM placement rule. And so it's a twofold thing. So if you're using this GitOps controller that automatically imports clusters from ACM into, or sorry, not ACM, OCM into Argo CD, if you're using the application set project with Argo CD, then you can also target placement rules. So you create an application set, and you can use a placement rule, and it will be able to read that and target OCM managed clusters. So it's a twofold integration. One, we're getting all of our managed clusters are able to be imported into Argo, and number 2, if you're using Argo application sets, you can also leverage placement rules as a way of targeting clusters. So it's kind of a twofold, and the controller actually takes care of the one piece of configuration you need to make an application set work. Even if you're not using application sets, we create the config map that makes it happen. But so what it means is that you can define a generator type of custom decision resource, and you can point it to an OCM placement rule, and it will target those clusters for Argo apps, which is cool as well. So let me pause there and see if there's any questions. Okay, I guess not. So I will finish up with, when I started talking to Mike and Chojen about this, Mike went through the repo and came up with brought up a couple of points of things that were missing or needed to be addressed. And so the first one was there was a dependency on the older add-on plugin capability that was part of some of the, I guess we'll call it the leftover or the inherited ACM piece. And so we look at the merge. So there's a number of things I'm making an adjustment to before we commit it. And so the main one there is all of this code that we see here commented out will be removed. This was what put an add-on or this external requirement that would have been needed outside of OCM. So we're going to remove that because it's not needed in the OCM context or even in our consumption of OCM down the road. So that's the one change that Mike had pointed out that he saw. The other to-dos are I want to simplify the makefile. It's a little more it's got a little too much going on inside of it, and so we're going to simplify that down. Although this does build with Prow today, it definitely could be made more manageable and readable. And then the other piece that was missing is I realized that we didn't have the deployment mechanisms present, and so as part of the contribution, we'll include those as well. So we have the deployment, the roles, the service that go with it. And so what you'll end up with, and this was a suggestion from Shoujian, was we created a integrations, we want to contribute as an integrations repo where there can be more than just this one integration, but for today there is just the integration. So from a pod level, you see that it's a multi-cloud integration, which aligns with the naming conventions used for the application space already in OCM with the subscription, but that we have an individual container within the integration that is specific to the GitOps cluster that we are going to use. And you can see some of the logged output here I've got where it's detecting clusters that are available in OCM. And so what it's doing is it's going out, it's creating the secret in the specific Argo namespace that are needed to do that import based on placement filtering. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to touch on. So I've got all the pieces actually in place for the merge. I just need to do a few updates to the README. And then I think we'll let Mike and Shoujian and anybody else that'd like to do a quick review, put up a pull request, can go through it. And if folks think it's a good idea, we can definitely integrate it. It will run standalone. It can be incorporated in the operator as long as OCM is there. It will function with the community Argo, which was part of the design.
That sounds great. I think one thing that I want to ask is about the scope of the multi-cloud integration repo. Do you think that one would not only the Argo, will we also have other integrations from the other projects?
I think we probably will at some point. We'll probably be picking other things up. I have to go back and check. I want to say we reuse the cluster API, but it might not be. And I'm, as part of the submission, I'd be willing to change. I assume that's what you're after, is changing the group, maybe, to make it more generic.
Yeah, I think because there are some thing like we also define something like add-on and maybe, but Argo is a little bit different that maybe we defined as integration. I was trying to say the difference, trying to confirm the difference between these two. For example, if we have a Sanos integration, should we put it here in this repo or things like that?
I think that's something as a community we'll need to decide on. It is they're different than an add-on per se. It's a specific integration with technologies, and so if there are, if there are other integrations that align in this vertical space, we definitely can do that. And that's, nothing is in stone, so we can start with it, and if we find we get more and more of them, maybe we do at some point start to break them out. I think we'll have to see how many come before it may become a need to explode it, or if there's only 2 or 3 or 4 at any given time that sort of stay constant and are being upkept, then maybe the single integration repo is enough.
That sounds great, Josh. So it seems like there's still a tiny bit of work before we can merge it. So maybe we'll talk about that more in another meeting. Because I did notice that our agenda did get updated, and I think QJan wanted to show some manifest prototype regarding the status updates, as well as we want to talk about our 0.05 release as well.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Josh, for presenting. So, Kijang, would you like to discuss the release status first, or would you want to demonstrate the manifest prototype?
Yeah, maybe the release things first. I think it's a time to for us to cut the 0.5 release. So I would like us to do something like to tag the maintainer of each repo. I would hope them to starting to tag the release on the next week, and please also create a changelog. The changelog format will be like something like that. That if there are multiple PRs in this release, we can all any features that in the release from the 0.4, please list them in a changelog in your repo, and also having who is a contributor of these features in the repo. And when we all done for all the repos for this changelog, I will send a PR, create a PR to the website to announce this release and just to mention all the contributors to the open cluster management in 0.5 release. So this is just ask for the maintainers of each repo.
Yep. I'll get the app done, and I think the GRC team is also on the call. We'll also provide the change, and then we can cut the release and do the announcement.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yushao or Gus, any comments regarding that?
Yeah, I mean we have our repos in an interesting state, as you know. I'm not sure if we have some impacts kind of going forward doing this, since we want to try to get these repos updated.
Yeah, so I think that's fine. I mean, if there are any issues that we cannot tag the 0.5, that's fine. I mean, just if there is anything that we want to put into that 0.5, please create a changelog for that, so we know all the features and we know all the contributors to each repo. Yeah, but it's fine that we don't have that for some repos.
If we have no change, do we still need to create tag the release, even with no change?
I
think we should, just for consistency's sake.
I think let's do that. I mean, even there's no change, maybe we will not. Let me think about that. I haven't think about that if there's no change things.
Yeah, because it looks like the approach we're taking here is we release them with same version at the same time. Is it actually true that we have to tag them together as the same version and release them at the same time?
We don't really need to tag the same version, I think, but there must be a release time for the postings, I guess, from my point of view. So you can still have 0.3 release if there's no update. But I mean, the reason that we do that is that we want to have a release announcement on 0.5, and just to show what the features and what the bug fix, what the changes has been done in this release. So if there's no code change,
I guess what I'm saying is, do you have a mapping to like this v0.5 version of release contains what version of components? Is there a mapping? How does the user figure out, like, how do I get the new feature? For example, for application, for this 0.5 release, which version should I use for app component?
So what we will do is like we will have an announcement saying this is OCM 0.5 release, and then we will have a list of each component, and this component could have a version of 0.5
Okay.
or 0.4, and I will provide a link to the changelog for this
Okay,
release.
I see. So you will create this mapping. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, on the website. Okay, yeah. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to mention quickly to use it out and address it. Do you have the GitHub action for performing the release as well? So I think QJ and myself have tried it out on the point 4 release and it worked out quite well, which will produce the tag image, push it to our Docker repo, which is great. And that's my only comment, QJ. So, any other topic regarding release? Sorry to cut you off.
So I think the other one is about the things that I'm trying to prototype about Manifestwork to return some status of the resources. Because previously we have some discussion about how do we, when we apply the resource on a managed cluster, how do we return some status? For example, there's many use cases like the user want to know the status, or there will be a controller on the hub that need to watch some status update. So what I currently did is that so this will be a very short demo. So what I currently did is that I define a new field on the Manifestwork, which is called interested field. And in the interested field, you could define which resource you are interested, and this resource must be in the manifests, and also which part of which status field you are interested. For example, here the format will be like the JSON path format. For example, here you can define that for this resource deployment, I'm really interested in the available replica and a certain condition type of the deployment. And then when we create a Manifestwork, so when we create a Manifestwork on one of the cluster, so in addition to, we return the resource status. Previously, we have the condition part that just showing whether the resource has been applied or the resource is available. But in this prototype, I also add another field called interested value. So this one is just mapped to the interested field here that will return some things about the status, like the available replicas. We will check what's data type. It could so currently it can be integer, the string, or the boolean. It cannot be anything like list or map because it could be unbounded. So this is just for the scalability, so we can only return a single value. So the things here is that another one has not been returned yet, but we just return some interested values that for the applied resource. So one of the interesting thing here we can do is like you can define a job here and saying that I'm interested in the status phase of the job, and then it will just try to update the status of the job to know whether the job is completed or not. So I think that's all the prototype I'm doing now. I'm not sure if there are any comments, any questions.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think there was a misspelling on the interested field. Just a minor bit. Min, do you have any comments regarding this? I think it's a great way to fetch the status, especially slim down and focus on the status that we need. Okay, I don't think he has any comment. I think this is great. There he is. He unmuted his mic. Maybe go ahead, Min.
Hello? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you now. Thanks.
Yeah, basically I don't have any more comments, but we can't wait to try the prototype anyway. I think this will satisfy our case.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, is that so? I will draft a proposal on that, and if any enhancement on the prototype, I can do. Thank you.
So one final thing we want to discuss. Oh, sorry, Q-Chang, is there any more you want to discuss regarding this prototype?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One final thing we want to discuss is we're pretty excited that Microsoft and the Azure team might be interested in joining the community. But for their time, I think they're on a Western time zone. It starts for them at 7:30, which is a little bit too early for them. So we would like to push this meeting an hour back. Thank you, Jen. I know that that'll mean that you're gonna have to stay up an hour later as well. What do you think, Jen?
So yeah, we have a discussion with the Microsoft team. It's actually contacted by me, and they are showing some interest. So we will continue this discussion and trying to see whether they would like to contribute more. So they are AKS team, and they are also working things like the multi-cluster solutions. We haven't go to too much details about what the real their use cases they are really concerned. I'm not sure whether Jimmy knows that knows more about that.
They're like more interested in multi-cluster network in the first phase because their AKS team are currently trying to develop their own multi-cluster products on their public cloud. The first issue is to solve the network, the problems in networks. So I think they are hoping to see a native network solutions in OCM. I guess this is they are trying to do in the first step. I will contact them to join our community meetings, to join our next community meetings. If I think they will be happy if we move our meeting time 1 hour back. So, hey, by the way, there's another minor single PR I'd like to talk about in this meeting because some of our customers are looking for localized content for our OCM homepage because I think they're having some trouble understanding the technique of OCM due to the language barrier. So this PR is adding I18N the content localization supports for our OCM homepage. So if we can get this PR merge, then our team are happy to contribute more localized content so that they can understand what's going on in OCM.
I see. I'll follow up on that assignment, and I'll let you know what the status of that PR is. That sounds great. Are there any other topics that we want to discuss? And Q-Chan, we can talk about the timing of the community call. I think everyone on the Eastern Standard Time is going to be okay with moving the meeting back an hour later, but it's just mostly it's going to be tougher for on you. Well, if there are no more questions, then that's it. Thank you everyone for attending the Open Cluster Management. Make sure you check the chat for potentially free stuff. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.